you can't find the words. It's a perfect world. Yeah, that's right. That's Tell me how you want it to be, and what do you see? Do you believe that you'll never fade? Tell me how you want it to be. Was it something you've seen that made you believe that you'll never fade? In your perfect world, you're too perfect world. You're too perfect world. Tell me how you want it to be, and what do you see? Do you believe that you'll never fade? Tell me how you want it to be. Was it something you've seen that made you believe that you'll never fade? In your perfect world, you're too perfect world. You're too perfect world. You're too perfect.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. We are live on YouTube, and it is a holiday weekend. Thanks for joining us, everybody who's tuning in as I crack a fresh moose head. What a time to be alive. Chris, what does the holiday 4th of July mean to you?
Nothing.
Freedom? Nothing? It
Sure.
doesn't mean anything
Sure.
to you?
No, I don't like holidays to start.
I know. I know how agnostic to things you are. Here's a question. Where do you guys, first of all, here's what I want to start with. First of all, thank you guys. I'm your host, Buffalo Bill season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. We are coming to you live on YouTube. And Chris did something hilarious before we started recording. And I don't even think he knows he did it, although I did mention it. He walked around the end of his desk, and I saw that he was wearing like what looked like the socks that you wear when you're trying on shoes at the store. But he's just casually wearing them around his house, and I found that laughable. And that started a conversation where, Chris, what do you call those? No-show socks?
Yes, they're no-show socks.
What is a no-show sock?
It's so you don't see the sock when you're wearing like shorts and shoes. And then you had to, surprisingly, as much of a gorilla as you are, defend sandals. The only spot a man should be wearing sandals is at the beach and nowhere else. Are you going to fight somebody in sandals? Do you have enough traction to fight somebody in sandals?
I shockingly have more traction barefoot than I do with shoes on. Also, me barefoot, that's your worst nightmare. It's the worst. I have ogre feet. And it's almost why I like sandals, because it's offensive to everyone. And it's super comfortable
you have
for me.
the same amount of hair on your toes that Eugene Levy has on his eyebrows.
Or Iman Azizi has on his shoulders.
Also true.
Iman, I love you. It's, first of all, I'm drinking a Blue Note Crossroads tonight. Awesome. They finally started carrying it in Western New York. It's one of my favorites. First of all, bad feet. You should never be afraid of that. I'm going to make everybody else uncomfortable. I'm one of the sweatiest human beings on earth. To wear sneakers, I hate it. And also, there's a tactical disadvantage to sneakers. Once they get wet, they're just wet. When you have sandals, especially like I only wear reefs, those things dry so quickly that if my feet get wet, I just towel them off and I go on with my life. You people out here wearing sneakers, your whole day's ruined if your feet get wet. Why wouldn't you be doing this? But then my beef with Chris was about his socks. I never wear socks when I'm at home. I rarely, unless I'm at work or the gym, I don't have socks on. Chris is walking around his home wearing no-show socks. What are you hiding from? You don't have shoes on. You mean to tell me you couldn't wear a normal crew cut sock?
No, I don't own those.
What about an ankle sock?
When you
What's wrong with an ankle sock?
Everything. I either have like dress socks, these no-show socks, or like a Dickie work sock, like a thicker sock that I would wear when I was at Sumitomo. I'm like, you just come home and you just rid your feet of shoes and socks. You take your socks off immediately when you get home.
100%. Jesus. Come off. I'm barefoot. Chris, I weed whack in sandals. I'm an animal.
I wouldn't do that.
But that's freedom, baby. That's what the 4th of July is all about. It's about freedom. Don't tread on me. Don't you dare tread on my right to bare my ogre feet. They're veiny. The toe next to my big toe, like I have the big hammer toe like Fred Flintstone, and then the toe next to it is somehow longer than that. I also have a gap in between my big toe and the toe next to it, and I can pinch things with it, and I can pick up things like a monkey does. And my friends used to joke that it was the monkey toe because I used to pinch people with it when they weren't paying attention.
That makes sense based on your teeth. You would have gaps like that all over your body.
When you have a size 13 foot and you can do that, you become intimidating. That's intimidation, baby. It's like Little Giants when Bruce Smith pops the football. Intimidation. It's all about having opposable toes. Guys, we're here. It's 4th of July weekend. I first of all want to thank you all for showing up on the eve of a holiday. I'm sure a lot of you have better places to be, better things to be doing, and yet you choose to spend it with us here at the Rockpile Report. The 4th of July is a sacred celebration of the time when I'm pretty sure the way it happened was John Hancock and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson got together and said, hey, fuck them taxes, or something along those lines. And a bunch of things happened, and we got the Statue of Liberty, and we got to be our own thing. I like the 4th of July. The 4th of July, you know, Chris, the song, Proud to be an American, gets me every time. That's a Darien Lake laser light show on a Saturday night kind of a thing. That's just, James Payne, you're the man. James Payne, Thomas Paine. James Paine of the Thomas Paine ilk, you know, the common sense letters that went out in the run up to the Revolutionary War that are the foundation of the thing that we're celebrating this weekend. God, I love it. And I love you, James. Thank you so much.
Yes, James, we appreciate the $10. We can't wait to see it in our bank account in 2 years when we get to 1,000 subscribers.
Here's what I love about you guys. You guys show up for us, and I don't ever need the biggest crowds. I need my crowd. We've talked about this. I don't need 1 million people. I don't need 1 million subscribers. I don't need 1 million people to come into the chat and give us their ideas. What I need is our people. People who just have fun listening to us sit here and smack talk each other. I mean, I'm sitting here literally talking about how the song, Chris, Google who sings Proud to be an American. As a child, I remember, and it still does. It'll get me, you know, you want to get the waterworks going? Now, full disclosure,
Lee Greenwood.
Proud to be an American. I'll tell you what, you turn that on, I can't help but tear up. Can't help it. And it's hilarious because, like, that's throwback. Most children now don't even know what that song is. Now, I don't know that I'm going to indoctrinate my children to it. I'm going to put it on, see how they respond. It's going to be a nice acid test for them. What also will be a nice acid test is fireworks. I want to urge you all to be careful. Chris, how old were you the last time you set off fireworks?
We got a little bit last year 2 years. I forget when I went to fucking North Carolina. Might have been last year. I think I went to North Carolina. We stopped in Tennessee, bought fireworks, set them off at this Airbnb that we had. Not many. That was probably it. And it's just me and my wife tomorrow night for the 4th. She was like, you want to go anywhere? And I was like, no. Let's just sit outside with a cocktail or 3. We don't need to do anything.
I'll tell you this. First of all, I've got 2 fireworks stories I want to share with you. The first one is the time I stopped setting off my own fireworks. My friend and I decided that after a bottle of tequila called Topaz, which, Chris, if you want to give that a Google and tell the listeners how much that costs per bottle, Topaz tequila. We drank a whole bottle of it between me and 2 of my friends while floating in my mother's swimming pool. And there it is.
I see. Well, there's different prices everywhere. I see anywhere from $13.99, $9.99, $21.99.
I think it pretty much sends the message. This is not a tequila to be trifled with, eh? We drank a whole bottle of it in margaritas and then decided that fireworks were a good idea. And so my parents live out in the country. I trot out to the side yard and I take a Roy Collins, courtesy of the red, white, and blue. Absolutely. Jason Pierre-Paul says, have fun. I almost had a Jason Pierre-Paul moment because I took this giant football-shaped firework out to the side yard and it had these cardboard propellers on it. And the idea was you were going to light the fuse and it would spin and the propellers would drive it up and then it would explode. But looking at it as I went to go set it up on this piece of PVC pipe that we were shooting everything out of, it did dawn on me that the propellers were facing the wrong way, Chris. And I was like, well, that's weird. The engine's on this side, so I have to light it, but the propellers are all going to drive it. Like, I don't know how this is going to go. So I lit it, and then I did an amateur move. I turned my back on the firework and just started slowly walking away. When it went off, because the fins were faced the wrong way, it started to just cyclone off that thing. And Chris, like the ball in Indiana Jones, like the giant rock, that thing just started chasing me across the side yard. And it exploded less than 10 feet away from me. I had to dive out of the way and it almost got me. And so when people go, oh, Jason Pierre-Paul, how did he blow his fingers off? What an idiot. He's a football player. It's like, no, you have no idea how easy it is to get maimed by a firework. It almost happened to me. It's also funny because we are celebrating the eve 9 years ago. My wife and I have been together for a decade now. A decade. 2015, 2016 is when my wife and I got together. So this would be the 9th year celebrating. It was my first 4th of July with her family. They like most tightly knit families, take this stuff seriously. And they were throwing a party and they set off some fireworks and they had a spat with the neighbor. The neighbor called the police. Now, this is my first time meeting her father and her uncles. And, we'd been drinking bourbon together. They're trying to suss me out about my political beliefs. Like, I remember someone asking me, hey, who are you going to vote for in the upcoming election, Chris? So it had to be 2016. And I remember using the phrase, I'm going to vote, just because I didn't want to talk about it. I go, I'm going to vote for whoever brings about the collapse of society, this political system, the fastest, because I think it's broken. And then they stopped talking to me about it. So fast forward to the cops being called for the fireworks we're shooting off. And the dynamic in their family is very much, adults take the lead, and as children, you're supposed to stand there in line. Now, me being 30 years old, it's like, listen, I've been in handcuffs. Who do you think you're talking to? Like, I'm not afraid of this guy, and this guy's being a grouch. He's taking out his terrible day on the rest of us, and I don't agree with that. So finally, I said something to get him off his high horse, and that has resonated with her family, Chris, to this day. They're like, wow, Drew really put himself out there.
Yeah.
And her cousins were like, you know that our parents are mad at you for that. I go, no, you can be mad at me. I need you to all to understand how little I care. It's very easy to get in trouble on the 4th of July. I just want you all to do well. Well, what is it, Chris? Do good.
Be good.
Be good.
Go Bills.
And go Bills on this 4th of July. And also a hefty portion of a hefty serving of Don't Tread on Me. Let's all celebrate a little bit of that. I do love that. I do love a cold moose head when I'm talking about freedom. So I want to talk about the Bills analytics hire. Let's get real nerdy for a minute, because Chris, when I here. Wait, hang on. What's happening in the chat here? Ralph Wilson Sr. says there's a Chinese plot against Drew. The CCP tried to take me out because they understand what a powerful Bills influencer I would someday become. Steve Noble, Chris, will you bring the chains? Chris, you have to.
I don't have the chain.
Looking forward to meeting you in person in a couple weeks. Will Chris stop by? Okay, Chris, this is going to be fun. Meeting Steve Noble is going to be great.
When is the state competition?
It's July 18th and 19th. And for any of you who haven't signed up and who are interested in such a thing, if you're watching this, if you're listening, there is going to be a massive, it's the first SCA competition inside of New York State's boundaries. Steve Noble and his crew are trying to pull this thing off, and I think that it would be great if you came out and participated. If you have any interest in competitive cooking, get your ass out there. Steve, do me a favor. Throw a link in the chat. We will push it out and we'll put it in tonight's show notes. So with that said, guys, some things happened this week. And I'm not too proud to admit that when I saw the headline that the Bills had hired an analytics team member, I reacted kind of like Booger in Revenge of the Nerds. I was like, what, they're bringing another dork into the building. Good, that's going to save the Bills season. Woo! Because I'm uncultured swine. Why wouldn't you think? Why? Anybody who doubts it, that's not my reaction. You don't know me that well. At first brush, I very much poo-pooed the idea. And then I was like, oh, well, that's really cool. The Bills are trying to moneyball this thing. It turns out analytics departments are old hat for the NFL in a way that I didn't even really understand. I found an article, Chris, from Seth Walder, right? 2023 for footballscoop.com, where they were talking about how all of these teams are investing in analytics back in 2023. The Browns and Jaguars back in 2023 had 17 staffers dedicated solely to being analytics department members. Every team in the NFL had at least 2 at that point. And when you take a look at it, Seth Walder went out and he put out a tweet and kind of outlined who was working for every franchise at the time. And I find it interesting that back in 2023, the Bills had 5, Chris. Now, their titles are interesting. Senior Director of Football Research, a Director of Analytics and Application Development. What are your so that application development tells you that they are developing their own in-house training software, right?
I would just think they're behind the Buffalo Bills app for the phone.
I think they have. Have you used that thing? That thing's an abomination. If they paid these people for that, I assume that thing was made in China. Just like that firework that tried to kill me. They also have a football analyst, a data analyst, and then a guy called sports performance data analyst, who I'm assuming is more on the training side of things.
Sounds about
training,
right.
Recovery. So every team is steering into analytics. So then this week, it makes headlines. The Bills have signed this guy, Cole Jacobson, to join our analytics department. And at first brush, you go, woo! Who cares? It's James Payne. They called the Geek Squad. Woo! They brought in another guy. And then you start to read into what Cole Jacobson was a part of and why he's here and how he got the jump, Chris, and it's fascinating. Did you have time to read the link that I sent you about safety entropy?
No, I did not read that. I did read his LinkedIn and the amount of places that guy's worked at. It's a lot. He's done stuff he's worked at the NFL, and I think he's based out of LA. Mm-hmm. I would assume I don't know how that works if you can do your job remotely, because a lot of his jobs on his LinkedIn were based out of LA.
Cole Jacobson, LinkedIn. Chris, do me a favor. Give it a Goog. Count how many different places. Football research assistant, now working for the Buffalo Bills. His title is football research assistant. But the reason he's here and the rock that he built his church on is fascinating when you really dive into it. And for those of you who don't want to go read it, I don't blame you, because it's It's heady stuff. If you don't normally read sci-fi novels, don't try to read this. I'm going to put it out in the show's description tonight. If you want to link to it, Chris, if you want to throw a link, what I emailed you into the chat, just so people can follow along if they really want to.
You see that?
Football research, varsity defensive line coach and analytics coordinator for, what is that, Harvard Westlake, and then Championship Analytics Inc., and then freelance football. So he was a writer for Major League Baseball.
And then show all 17 experiences.
Oh, my God.
He's all over the place. NFL media.
Okay.
Fox Sports, UCLA, UPenn.
This is, let me break it down for you guys so you don't have to do the heavy lifting. Chris, share the link in the chat, and like I said, we'll put it in the show notes. The work that Cole Jacobson was a part of is fascinating when it comes to this idea of safety entropy. And for you guys, I'm going to break it down for you so you don't have to read it if you don't want to. First of all, they did a study, and the concept was that, it says it right at the top of the notes in their thing. They said, we were fortunate to have an insightful conversation with quarterback Josh Rosen, forming the inspiration for our project. Weaving anecdotes from his time in the NFL with X's and O's, he emphasized something along the lines of, if I could just know with 100% certainty what safeties would do, my life would have been twice as easy. And, well, first of all, you might laugh at that because you're talking about Josh Rosen, who is a quarterback that a lot of Bills fans, myself included, thought the Bills would have been better off drafting than Josh Allen, which shows that we know nothing. It's also a guy who had one season as a starter and then floated the NFL as a backup and never got another shot to see a starting NFL field again. And when you think about it and I look at his passer chart, I start to put together the picture of why that might be and why Josh Rosen specifically might feel that way about safety play. When you look at what Josh Rosen's statistics were, he was a terrible deep ball thrower. Awful. I mean, Chris, what he had, what is this, 14 is 28. Out of 50 attempts, he completed 16 passes. Out of 50 attempts beyond 20 yards. So when he tried to go deep with the football when he was a quarterback, he had no idea what he was throwing at. He was just hucking up balls and hoping they'd land and trying not to get intercepted, which he did 3 times. 3-to-3 touchdown to interception ratio. You look at what happened to him underneath and it got worse. He threw interceptions, like when you look at the PFF grid of where Josh Rosen threw the ball, inside from the 10 to 20 and the 0 to 10 yard window, Josh Rosen threw at least 2 interceptions in every single window. That's terrible quarterbacking. So to hear him admit, hey, it's because I had no idea how to read safeties. And then I came into the NFL and they fucked me up. Watching safeties and trying to figure out how a defense was shifting, how a safety might drop and a linebacker might drop deeper than I expected him to, it screwed up my processing and I made a lot of mistakes. It starts to make more sense as to why being able to read those safeties is important to an NFL quarterback. Now, when you go throughout Cole Jacobson's team and his paper there, what they did, Chris, was they developed a model that they claimed can measure safety entropy. For those of you at home, entropy is a fancy word for unpredictability. It's the predictability of safety play and the effect on offensive performance or decision-making based on historical alignments and subcategorization of skill sets. So what they literally did was go down and start measuring what's the vertical velocity of a specific safety on average. And because of Amazon Web Services, they can now measure that because they have the sensors in the pads. That's how you know that a certain running back hit 21 miles an hour when he was running away from the Bills' defense this year until Dorian Williams stopped him. Accounting for safety creep, where players on the safety position would move 4 or more yards towards the line of scrimmage pre-snap on average. And they start calculating that. Who does this? How are the safeties moving pre-snap? They measure horizontal drift pre-snap of 3 or more yards, and they start assigning values to this and pegging players and then putting those players into buckets and then building team-based metrics off of that. Then measuring how often all of these pre-snap motions that they're doing are feints or deception, more so than a true alignment, using a value adjustment they call disguisedness. Like, this is a really heady piece where they collected so many obscure data points, but did enough of it that they were able to start to build the picture of how do NFL safeties behave? And then what does that correlate to post-snap, and what does the quarterback see? Because the two most common things that you see as a quarterback from the safety position, they call it MOFO and MOCO. It's middle of field open, middle field closed.
Not motherfucker, which is
Exactly, which is why it's hilarious to see a think piece written with MOFO in capital letters so many times, because I'm childish and I find that funny. But so the idea was, if you as a quarterback could be more prepared about what you were going to see, because we've defined how you're going to pregame scout other teams, you could, like, Chris, look at this. They said that by gathering all of those specific analytics and then blending it together through their proprietary model, they've developed a system that can determine which teams use more pre-snap disguise or randomness of safety alignment, which is considered high entropy. And thus, you need to do more in-depth scouting work, and you need to watch these guys and really prepare for them, versus teams that have that don't have a lot of that. The low entropy teams. These are the teams that, from a safety perspective, aren't doing much to try to fool an opposing NFL offense. They're just going to line up and play you straight up, and that gives you an advantage because, generally speaking, what they give you pre-snap is what you're going to see post-snap. I think that this is important because when you think about, again, what safety alignment means to a quarterback. Chris, how many times do you see Josh Allen come to the line of scrimmage and call out a sight adjustment? He's tapping his offensive lineman going, hey, that guy and that guy. If you see him pointing over center, he's not talking about the linebackers. He's talking about the safeties and where they're aligned, and he's generally speaking changing a play because he's witnessing what they're doing and he's trying to make an adjustment. Now, I think that this is incredibly interesting if, like, this guy has a model. And I want to put this out there. This was all part of what they call it's like their the Big Data Bowl, which is a thing that they do every year. This was, Cole Jacobson's team submitted this past summer, and now he's immediately got a job with the Buffalo Bills. Keep that in mind. So you're out here trying to measure safety entropy and how random, how much adjustment, how much pre-snap motion, and how much disguising are you doing with your safeties? Well, Chris, isn't that something that the Bills are known for on defense?
Yeah. Okay. I think of... When I see, like, this announced, Cole Jacobson, part of the Bills, and then it's, we did this piece on safeties. And then I'm like, safeties. Our head coach loves safeties and defensive back play.
Now, let me tell you why this is important. It has nothing to do with the defense. The data set that Cole Jacobson's team used for this experiment and this, like, thing that they won this competition with, the data modeling was weeks 1 through 9 of 2022. Now, they've built this thing over years of data, but they use 2022 as their thing of, hey, we can prove, and then you can go back and watch the film and understand that we're correct. We are actually breaking down football analytically in real time using our model, and it works. The Rams, by their model, ranked number 1 in safety disguise and randomness. The Buffalo Bills, over the course of weeks 1 through 9, finished 29th in the NFL. That surprises you, doesn't it, Chris?
Yeah.
Think back to what was happening with the Buffalo Bills roster weeks 1 through 9 of 2022. Chris, you and I were at that Titans game, week 2, home opener, when Micah Hyde gets ambulanced off the field after suffering a neck injury.
Yes.
Micah Hyde, part of the Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde Pro Bowl pairing at safety, gets ambulanced off the field. And they have to put sophomore DeMar Hamlin, who's never started a game in his career, into the lineup week 2. And for the next 7 weeks, they start this guy who has no starting experience. Chris, that might play a direct role into how much you trust that guy to freelance pre-snap, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So when you watch that and you think back to how would the Bills be one of the lowest entropy teams at safety when they've run a lot of pre-snap games with their safeties. That's why they're such a good defense. You think about that season in a vacuum and you go, oh no, they had a guy who's literally learning on the job. And they had Poyer, who went on to have a Pro Bowl season, but Poyer's an in-the-box safety anyway. Everyone kind of knows where he's going to end up as strong safety, knowing his limited range. So there wasn't a whole lot of subterfuge the Bills could build into their safety alignments, and all of the work Cole Jacobson and his team sussed that right out. And then you look at the results that we saw over that early stretch of the 2022 season. Chris, that's the year that we lost to Miami. In Miami, when it's fourth and whatever, it's like fourth and 30 something, or
1,000 degrees,
third and 30, and they convert because they know they have DeMar Hamlin on Jalen Waddle, and that's just a mismatch. And they know they have it, and they know it's not a fluke. They know they can trust it because the Bills aren't running any games in the secondary. It's that type of thing. Like, it's that type of thing that gives credence to the fact that Cole Jacobson and his team might have struck on something real. A new way of being able to analytically qualify safeties and figure out how to pregame scout your opposing team that's coming up. How to qualify what teams are not just what they're doing and who's the most volatile, but how they do it. Do they creep more towards the line of scrimmage and then bail out of it? Do they drop deeper and then rush to the line of scrimmage? Or do they just straight up play you the way they're aligned more often than not? It's an incredibly fascinating read. And I've done all the heavy lifting so you guys don't have to. They believe that this modeling can be used to predict variance in pre-snap to post-snap safety alignments. And that'll allow for better game day prep, teach quarterbacks how to anticipate what their opponent's safeties are going to do before they do it. What are you pointing at?
Comments.
Okay, where? Rosen figured out their quarterback must read safeties.
The latest one.
Josh said this offseason, his offseason work was pre-snap recognition. That told me he's taking responsibility for the wrong line call on that fourth down in Kansas City. Bang. And then they bring in a guy whose job analytically is that they see a guy win a competition for analytics on how to read safeties, and they go, Josh will love this. I can't wait to give Josh Allen this guy because it's something Josh has already said that he wants to get better at and needs to get better at. And I'm not just saying that, I can qualify it, but give me a second here. If you as a quarterback can figure out middle of field open, middle of field closed, is this a pre-snap disguise or is it true alignment? You hold the keys to the castle. You will dominate opposing defenses in a way that other teams can't. And the fact that this study just came out and the Bills rushed out to go hire that guy, yes, that is a steal for the Buffalo Bills. I'm looking at the comments here. He was spot on the play before when he called for Cook to block Leo Chenal. Cook got smoked and Allen forced the pass to Samuel and missed. Yep, exactly. So you see it that Allen understands what's going on here. But also when you look at the numbers and you talk about the theoretical impact, right? Because here's an analytics guy saying, I just won the nation's biggest football analytics competition, telling you that my algorithm works. And the Bills hire that guy. And it's like, listen, target selection, ball security, EPA per play, all of this should theoretically increase if you're employing this algorithm into how you prepare for game day. Then you look at the numbers from last season. Josh is the defending MVP. You'll never take that title away from him, but you also can't rest on your laurels here in the NFL. By the numbers, Chris, if you want to put it on the TV for everybody, here's Allen's passer chart. Okay, take a look at it. Has an incredible completion percentage inside that 0 to 10 yard window, which I feel like is entirely a byproduct of Joe Brady just calling great plays. Those two interceptions, I almost want to go back and look at them. Like I lead two of those 4 that he threw from 0 to 10. I want to see that because I don't believe they're completely his fault. But when you look at his passing beyond 20 yards, 5 touchdowns and 2 picks, like that's it? That's all the production you had? That's a problem. And what that comes from is a concerted effort to not turn the ball over. Wasn't that the knock against Josh Allen, Chris? All the time. Everybody's like, oh, well, Josh turns the ball over too much. That's why he can't be MVP. When you compare him to the other elite quarterbacks in the AFC, Lamar Jackson, over 20 yards downfield, 11 touchdowns, 1 pick. Joe Burrow, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Even Mahomes, who had a down offensive season, 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And what's worse is that Allen actually took twice as many downfield shots as Mahomes did. Okay? Lamar Jackson had 73 deep passing attempts. Mahomes had 54. Allen took 87. More passes beyond 20 yards than any of the elite quarterbacks in the AFC, and yet he had worse production than all of them. That's a problem. When you see those numbers, there is no way Josh Allen being the worst deep ball passer out of Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Mahomes in a down offensive year, and the fact that he attempted more of them, what it says to me is that Josh Allen is trying to do the thing that he always used to do, which is push the ball downfield. He's just not willing to risk turnovers anymore because he understands you have to win that turnover battle to win football games. So now he's trying to beat safeties, going, well, if my guy can't catch it, no one's going to catch it. But that's not the game. Those aren't the wide receivers you have. You look at the wide receivers that guys like Joe Burrow has. Joe Burrow has guys that if he throws it up, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are going to go fight for a 50-50 ball and probably win. Meanwhile, Lamar Jackson had fast guys who could get down the field, get open, and their coordinator, whether you like Todd Monken or not, he did a great job with them. Mahomes had speed and he had spacing and he has the best offensive coordinator in the AFC. We know Josh is elite. He proved it by winning the MVP title. We also know that he's found and continues to look for ways to improve ball security because his MVP award came on the back of that. His lowest turnover rate ever. But we can't have the pursuit of ball security at the expense of explosive plays, right? In an effort to keep playing rock, paper, scissors with the rest of the AFC, the Bills have opted not to go get some Jamar Chase or a T. Higgins or somebody who can go win a hotly contested ball. Chris, you look too happy. What's happening?
Tommy there, latest comment.
The only separation we have is your teeth. Yes. Woo! I feel like Chip at dinner. Come on, bring the heat. I love it. So when you look at this guy's analysis and the work that he's putting out there, Chris, it's a great idea that the Buffalo Bills are adding a guy to their analytics team whose claim to fame is being able to analyze opposing safety play using unique and proprietary data points and a modeling system that no other team has in their building right now to enhance the pregame scouting that the Bills are able to do. Imagine if you could go to Josh Allen and say, look, man, you see these formations and you see how aggressively this team moves their safeties around? It's all bullshit. Don't fall for it. They will give you pre-snap looks that aren't what it is post-snap. Josh can go into there confident that when he sees the defense moving around, he doesn't have to react to it. He can just say, okay, we have the structure of the play. We've seen this formation. We've done our scouting. I'm going to stay within the structure of the given play. I'm not going to overreact. And I'm not going to let that cloud my judgment. At the same time, when he can predict because of the modeling that the middle of the field is going to be open. Chris, this is a team that's dying for 20-yard plays. Khalil Shakir had 9 catches of 20 yards or more?
I don't know. I'm not pro.
We talked about it last week. It was 57th in the NFL. And then Keon Coleman was ahead of him with 12 plays. And all of their receivers were way down the NFL list of 20 or plus yards receptions. Imagine if you could add a guy to your analytics staff who could say, hey, Josh, middle of the field is going to be open, especially in those high danger areas, like up the seam, where, I don't know, you have a first round tight end who's got a lot of athleticism, but safeties tend to shade that way. If you could know pre-snap definitively based on the scouting based on the modeling of the analytics department and then the scouting and the preparation the week of, you could know when a team lines up saying, no matter what they show me, I know they're going to leave the middle of the field open. I can take a shot to Kincaid up the seam because I know that safety's not going to be there. And they're not going to be ready for me getting on them with that ball as quickly as I do because Kincaid might be my second read, but I can get to that second read so much faster knowing that the middle of the field is going to be open. You could see a Buffalo Bills team with so many more explosive plays. And you're talking about a team that was already second in the NFL in scoring last year. You give us that, Chris. Like I said, it's a low cost. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. But holy shit, is this exciting. Like once you really dig into the work, this is why I love the fact that I'm such a caveman. And then every now and again I sober up and I'm like, I'll give this a shot. Let's suspension of disbelief aside, let's go look at it.
I've never heard of a analytic hire being like this talked about, and this whole thing that I have on the screen over here talking about motherfuckers and mofos, middle
field open, middle field closed.
Like, I don't know. I guess this is the time of the nerds, and like I've never seen. This is the first time I've ever seen like a public forum article that a guy strictly for football analytics has done.
Lambda. Let the Bills be that then. I don't care if it brings a Lombardi down Delaware Avenue in Buffalo. I'll take it. I'm very excited about the addition of this brand of analytics, specifically as it applies to Josh Allen's weaknesses and the weaknesses of this offense, generating explosive plays in the middle of the field. You know, and an example of that type of play, Chris, the Rams game where Khalil Shakir catches the ball in the seam and just beats the safeties because he has a good enough angle. It's because the safeties cleared out of the center of the field and gave him the alleyway. If we could have even just another second or two of pre-warning that was going to be open, you don't think Josh Allen and company could do some damage there?
I bet they could.
That's why this is important. I like it. It doesn't mean that it'll work, but holy shit, it's a hell of a, like, you can tell the Bills are really emptying the clip trying to figure out how do we unlock this Super Bowl thing. And so with that, I give a toast, Cole Jacobson. Hopefully your career here is long. Hopefully you go on to be the analytics head of the Buffalo Bills. Hopefully this modeling of yours brings a Super Bowl or two to Buffalo. And if it doesn't, no one will care or remember that I said that it was important. Because that's the beauty of podcasting, Chris. There's a million of them, and anything stupid I say back here just gets lost in the shuffle. Speaking of stupid and getting lost in the shuffle, final point. Final topic for the evening. The Buffalo Soccer Stadium flop and what's next as it pertains to where they're going to put this stadium and how the Bills' old stadium footprint might play into this. Guys, first of all, raise your hands in the chat. How many people really would watch Buffalo soccer?
I mean,
Buffalo Bills long snapper Reed Ferguson went ahead and invested in the Buffalo Soccer, their entry into the Buffalo Soccer League. And I don't understand why. I mean, he's a soccer fan. I get it. Reed Ferguson. Like, that's the thing. When you're Chris, can I just say something? When you're a specialist, punter, kicker, long snapper, soccer fans, all of them, right?
Yeah.
You have to be.
Yeah, well, I will tell you the first time, I think this was Reed had signed mid-season practice squad. Then he came back for OTAs, and he stayed with me at my apartment. And I remember the first Saturday, I woke up, I go out into my living room. Reed has made himself breakfast. It's 8 a.m, and he's got soccer on the TV. I was like, I got to be like a good host. I go, make yourself at home. I will tell you this right now. Reed Ferguson cuts up his pancakes before he eats them, like you would do your like Jack and Tommy. All right, making he cuts them up into
with the whole pancake.
The whole pancake.
No,
he cuts up the whole pancake.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's his child tendency of Reed's. And then he was like, "Oh no, I fucking love soccer." And then I was like, "We got to go to Mezque next week." He was like, "What's Mezque?" And then I opened him to that world of taking him to North Buffalo to watch soccer in the morning. But yeah, Reed Ferguson pre-cuts his pancakes into little squares like a 5-year-old.
First of all, that's unacceptable. You can't do that. I love that we're gonna have him on the show, and then he's just gonna get mad that we're just airing all of his dirty laundry, like his stupid photos and his cutting of his pancakes. We love you, Reed. We just feel like you're one of the guys now. So the Bills' bid for a soccer stadium was kind of hinged around this idea that they were going to put it over at a certain spot in South Buffalo. And that flopped. It fell right on its face. They lost their lease today, and it's been kind of...
I guess it's due to a chemical company?
A chemical company in the area owns the rights and won't give them up, and it's become volatile. Here's Jamie in the comments says it's true, and that look, the Buffalo Blizzard, the indoor soccer field. Now I will say, indoor soccer in the '90s was amazing. What was it? It was Randy and Rudy Pikuzinski for the Buffalo Blizzard, and Andrew Crawford was actually my favorite player. He led the team in scoring for like 2 seasons, but the Pikuzinskis were Olympic level soccer players who happened to be from. With the names Rudy and Randy Pikuzinski, Chris, would it shock you to hear they're from Cheektowaga, New York?
Doesn't surprise. I got a ticket right here behind me. Buffalo Blizzard versus Canton Invaders. Saturday, December 19th, 1992. Lower gold section. You want to guess the price?
How much?
$13.
Yeah. The Buffalo Blizzard were the first like professional, like, or semi-pro, whatever you want to call it, soccer. It was like the NLL. Right?
No, they had the Stallions in the 80s.
And it was awesome as a kid to go watch indoor soccer. I got to be in the arena all the time. I remember watching this girl who was in her teens get drilled in the face with one of those balls because it came up over the netting.
Yep.
And she was just talking to her friends, and me being 11 years old did the thing that 11-year-old would do. There's no chivalry. I just went, oh! And it hit this girl right in the face, like right on the side of her face, because she wasn't looking at the field. You know, they always say, keep your eyes on the game. Indoor soccer was awesome. Now they're talking about outdoor soccer. And like it all fell through. It all fell apart. They were going to make it over on Elk Street in South Buffalo, like right there at the corner. It was like Elk or South Park or Seneca, whatever that is. And it blew up. Jamie says we also need cricket in Buffalo. All right, slow down now. Cricket? You need to understand what a crumpet is if you're going to play cricket. Anybody who gets that reference, you're my friend. So I see this and I can't help but think, first of all, soccer in Buffalo, I guess I thought it was a lukewarm idea, but now that we're talking about the Buffalo Blizzard, it might not be. There might be 5,000, 6,000 people who could come see that.
I think it was a 7,000 seat stadium.
So now they're looking for a place to build this. And I guess my question is, why can't we, as a city, do the thing that, Chris, remember all the people who were screaming about the stadium location?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we need to build a corridor over here and it would revitalize downtown and you could put a sporting venue with bars and restaurants. Here's your opportunity. Now, guys, I want to remind you, those of you who may have short memories, like Goldfish, let me illustrate to you why it was a bad idea to ever try to put the Buffalo Bills Stadium downtown. They had 2 sites. One is where the stadium's currently being built. The other one, Chris, if you want to throw it up there on the screen for everybody, this is where they thought they were going to try to put a football stadium. I want you to take a look at the number of houses in that area. As soon as I saw this photograph, I laughed my ass off and said, well, The stadium's going to be back in Orchard Park because the NFL will never be responsible for relocating some of the poorest people in a city. And I don't say that to be disparaging. I say it because that section of South Buffalo houses it's the lowest income area of Buffalo, the lowest rent, the lowest house value. See that field right there, that open field. They expected that the Bills were going to build a football stadium in that area and relocate 2/3 of the houses you saw in that photo. You would never make that fly. You'd get tied up in lawsuits for years. And then everyone's like, well, you could just pay those people to leave. Who's heartless now? You're the ones we want to revitalize downtown. What, at the expense of some of your most vulnerable residents? Who's a leech now? You keep saying that the people pushing for it to be out in the suburbs are entitled people of certain demographics. And at the same time, those of you who feel like social justice warriors about the concept are the ones who are advocating for the thing that will damage some of the most vulnerable members of your society. It's crazy to me. It always has been. So now you have this falling out of the football stadium that was supposed to go at the elbow of Elk Street in South Buffalo. And I say to myself, Chris, throw that map up one more time. Wouldn't this make sense for I don't know, maybe not a 70,000 person football stadium, but Chris, couldn't you find room for a 7,000 person soccer arena there?
I think so.
And in doing so, couldn't you add bars and restaurants and things that would raise the property value for the people who live there?
You already have Adolph's there.
Yeah, Adolph's is already doing a lot of the heavy lifting in that neighborhood. Imagine what Adolph's could become if there was a sporting complex there.
There's a bunch of
multi-use facility that during the year sees other sporting events played there. Look at that field, Chris, right behind Resurgence Brewing.
Yeah.
They could partner with Resurgence. They could put a 7,000 person multi-use facility right there. The neighborhood would benefit. They would benefit. They could start to build things in the neighborhood. They could build an entertainment strip around the facility, and it would do nothing but benefit that area without hurting anybody. This seems like it's a no-brainer. Chris, do I have to draft the proposition and then take it to the new Buffalo mayor?
I mean, this is a perfect opportunity for you to wear your fitted sleeveless suit.
Oh, yeah, guys. Chris, if you can bring my single back. Guys,
single.
Wait, singles this way? Guys, I've long held this idea. I've tried to get Greg Thompson to buy into it for like a Shark Tank kind of a thing. I want dress shirts that are fitted. They're nice. They're tailored. And then they're sleeveless. Like you naturally hem them in and you cut them so that they cut around your shoulders. And that way, inside my jacket, I'm more comfortable. I don't have to worry about sleeves poking out the bottom. And then at the same time, when I want to be emphatic and I want to put the exclamation point on something in the boardroom, I just whip that jacket off. Now I'm showing guns, and everyone in the room is stunned. No one knows what to say. I control that entire room. There's nothing you can say to me that's going to stop me now. I'm on fire. I run this place. I'm the mayor of Cloud City in RoboCop. I can do anything I want to do. So with this said, I believe that there is a real opportunity, if anybody here with any common sense can see it, to finally scratch the itch of all the people who complained about the Buffalo Bills stadium not being put downtown. We can get a thing down there and we can build it, and that will bring revenue and it'll revitalize that part of the neighborhood, and you can build off that and you can start to rebuild that portion of the city that's been for so long neglected. It's almost a slam dunk. I don't know why anyone wouldn't do it, Chris. With that said, somebody's going to spearhead the effort. So I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to have about 5 more beers. And then I'm going to write to the new mayor. I'm going to send him an email with all my thoughts. And then, Chris, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print them out on paper and in a suit, show up and hand deliver them to City Hall. And then I'm going to keep doing it every week until someone comes and tells me to stop. At which point they'll have to deal with me in one way or the other, right?
I got a completely better idea for you to do this. We go downtown to Niagara Square. You, sleeveless dress shirt. You throw me the keys to your truck, and we drive your truck around the entire Niagara Square. But we have fashioned and set up a PA system with that podium because it's on wheels.
Yes!
We have a podium that's on wheels, and you just water.
The return of the podium will be for civic good.
You waterboard Niagara Square with the podium we have on wheels in a sleeveless suit.
Hang on, here's the best part. Tank Ninja comes back with Mayor McCheese. What he doesn't understand is Mayor McCheese has been actually one of our longest Twitter follows. Yes. The name Mayor McCheese is actually one of our longest social media follows of all time. I would love nothing more. I would love nothing more than to be pulled slowly around Delaware, just around the fountain, at a podium with a megaphone, just yelling rhetoric about where that thing needs to go. I feel like if there's anybody in Buffalo who can pull it off, it's me.
I believe it.
Guys, tweet us and email us at Rockpile Report if you think I should take this battle on and make it, Drew takes on City Hall, like an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Drew takes on City Hall over the soccer stadium, a sport that I admit that I don't give a shit about. What a time to be alive, folks. That's what freedom's all about. The freedom to stand up for things that you don't even really care about. That's freedom. that's the Gadsden flag. Don't tread on me, right?
Yeah.
A la Blues Brothers with a giant amp on car. Yes, Chris. There's a whole thing here. We have to assemble a crew first, though, James. We have to assemble the crew. We have to put together an all-star cast, and then we have to make this thing happen. And it'll just be Drew trolling the city of Buffalo until they respond violently. But luckily, I've been pepper sprayed before. Chris, I've been tased. I've been pepper sprayed. I've been handcuffed. None of this will be unfamiliar territory. There's almost nothing you can do to me. I don't care. You'd almost think I was a civil rights leader the way I've been. Tank Ninja, the freedom to keep driving in circles around a roundabout. Don't you tread on me. Guys, I love this. I love the idea, and I also love what it could mean for the Buffalo area. I mean it. I'm serious about this. I think that the failure of the soccer stadium to be at Elkin, South Park, and whatever the hell it was supposed to be, is a monumental opportunity for the city of Buffalo. And somebody should remind them, hey, remember that thing you wanted so badly with the Buffalo Bills? You could still have something cool there if you just invest the time and energy. It'll take some coercion. I don't know, Chris. Maybe I might have enough of these where I could maybe get there, and then who knows? Maybe you'll see me just getting bitten by dogs and clubbed on TV, yelling, "Don't tread on me." I don't know.
I'll sign up for that.
Of course you would. Guys, this has been great. You guys are awesome. I love everybody who shows up for just our nonsense every week. We love each and every one of you. But for tonight, we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been your